But let me ask you, when it comes to Brock Purdy, do you think so far, is this the guy that you want to invest your money into? Like you want to give him the contract and stick with him? Or is this the guy that you're saying, hey, you know what? Maybe not yet. Because I mean, you figure he could play, he could play his fourth year. They could franchise him. They have some options. If you're GM of the Niners, which way are you leaning towards when it comes to Brock Purdy?
Well, this offseason, I'm going to offer him something like Baker Mayfield contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he's not going to take it, and that's fine. And then I'm going to play it out. I'm going to force him to prove that he is that guy. Here's the problem. What do you risk if you don't pay him this next year? The only thing that you can potentially risk is that you pay him slightly more money the year after. So let's say the going rate is $60 million this offseason. Well, the salary cap's going to go up a little bit. He plays really good. He proves he's the franchise guy. So what's the going rate next offseason? 62 million? 63 million? I would rather pay 2-3 million extra per year and know for a fact I have the guy versus rushing to pay somebody that ends up not being the guy. Because if he ends up not being the guy and you've given him all that money, you've taken away any possibility of winning. And most likely he's not that guy. I'm not saying he can't get there. Of course he can get there. He's only in year 3. But, I mean, there's only 5 to 7 elite quarterbacks in the NFL at a time. The chances of him reaching that status based off of what we know, pretty slim to none. He looks closer to Baker than he does Josh Allen. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think Baker's a good quarterback, but I'm not paying Baker $60 million. I'm not paying Dak $60 million. I'm not paying Kyler $60 million or Kirk Cousins. I'm paying him about $45 million, and I'm feeling good about it.
Well, I would agree. I mean, when you compare him to like Baker Mayfield, I think Baker has a stronger arm than he does. So that's one thing that separates the two of them. Now, I think Brock is his athletic ability to run with the football, I think has been a game changer, not only for the Niners, but for him as a product, as his value has gone up because of his ability to run with the football. But to me, he's running an awful lot lately, which kind of seems like at first everyone thought, hey, this is great. He's a mobile quarterback now. But then after a while, you're like, wait a minute. Why is he running so much? Why is nobody getting open? Why are we last in separation for the receivers? There's all these things that are kind of adding up to why things are happening the way they're happening. Now, I would agree, $45 million sounds great, because if he is the equivalent of Baker Mayfield, then yeah. Now, I think he's done some incredible things, but obviously, look, he's not Josh Allen. Josh Allen's incredible. Josh Allen's like, what, 6'5" or whatever. He could run with the football. He could throw the ball, like a cannon. And he freaking ran to win the game against the Chiefs. I was like, well, there you go. And then obviously you have Pat Mahomes, but I would say Mahomes is like the Steph Curry of football, or just having, and this is the thing too, is that when you watch teams, I don't care if it's basketball, if it's baseball, if it's football, when you watch teams that have an elite superstar, such as like a Steph Curry, LeBron James, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, they can take over a game. They can dictate what happens. It's never too big for them. They can overcome whatever's in front of them. And now, am I saying that Brock Purdy can't? No, I'm not saying that. But these guys are at an elite level. Now, here's the thing, is that the Niners struck gold by getting him with the last pick in the draft. I mean, that's huge. If we drafted this guy with like the 10th pick in the draft, everyone would be like, yeah, this is probably what you get. This is on par. His first round draft pick. That's great. But being Mr. Irrelevant, I mean, this was like money in the bank. Holy cow. But I still think that Brock Purdy, unless you have a viable option, to me, I would bring him back. But yes, I would agree that $45 million to me sounds right. And I would agree that at this point, based on what he's done this year, because I mean, face it, in sports, it's what have you done for me lately? And so I would say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to give you. If you don't like that, then we'll have you play on your 4th year, and we can also franchise you as well. So we have control of you for at least another couple of years. I don't feel like there's a need to rush into a fat contract with this guy. And I'm a huge Brock Purdy fan. Don't get me wrong.
No, I agree with that. But it's not just, this is where 49ers get really frustrated with this conversation is obviously you cover NorCal sports, 49ers, you cover everything, right? But I cover just the 49ers. But if you ask my opinion about CJ Stroud, let's say CJ Stroud was in a situation that he had to be paid at the end of this year. I love CJ Stroud. He was my number one pick last year. I thought it was clear. I don't understand what people saw in Bryce Young, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But I love CJ Stroud. Everything he's brought, I feel like he's got all the tools. He's got everything that you need to be great in this league. He showed it last year. He brought a team and the Texans that had no business making the playoffs, all those things. But CJ's struggling a little bit this year.
Yeah.
So if CJ was in the same situation as Brock, and he's not, thankfully for the Texans, they don't have to worry about this. But if CJ was in the same situation, I'd be like, yeah, I want to see another year. Let me see another year. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that about a quarterback. Now, when you, or any player for that matter, but when you say it about a player that a fan base is passionate about, they get really, really, really upset. They get really tied to this player emotionally.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you are. I make this example all the time whenever you see two great quarterbacks go head to head, but we saw this on, I think it was Sunday Night Football. Was it Burrow and Herbert on Sunday Night Football, if I remember correctly? I don't know who in their right mind is watching that game and watching what those quarterbacks did and then sits back and says to themselves, you know what I really want? I want a 6-foot quarterback who anticipates his butt off with a weak arm. That's what I really like. I mean, these guys are great. I love 6'6", rocket arm, mobile accuracy. I love all of that. But you know what? It's the cerebral guy that I really want. Well, who says that? This is athletics, man. I'm sorry. At some point, bigger, stronger, faster plays when you are in athletics. And Brock Purdy will never have bigger, strong. Now, he does have quickness. So the faster thing does play. But bigger, stronger, he will never have. And that's okay. Doesn't mean he can't be good or even great. But in order to be great, you have to be something that nobody else has seen. A lot of people make the comparisons to Drew Brees, which stature-wise, athletic-wise, great comparisons. Drew Brees is the most accurate passer of all time. In order for Drew Brees to be put into that category, he had to be the best in the world out of anybody who's ever done it to be put into that category. What does Brock do or show you that he can be the best in the world at it? Any one thing. And if you can name it and it means something when it comes to playing quarterback in the NFL, okay, maybe he can be that guy. I don't see it though. He doesn't have, I don't even think he's a top 10 passer as far as accuracy in this league. Completion percentage is not accuracy. Ball placement is accuracy. He struggles with ball placement. He does, and he has. He's not elite at anything other than short area quickness, and that's not enough to be an elite quarterback. He can be a good quarterback, but not elite.
But to me, and it's weird to say this too, it's like I don't want to compare him to Josh Allen and these guys because these guys were born at a higher pedigree than he was. But at some point, I guess you kind of have to if you're going to be paying him the kind of money that these guys would command.
No, but I do want to say this, just to be clear about this. Just because you're a great athlete, bigger, stronger, faster, that's not enough. You do have to be cerebral as well. I mean, Anthony Richardson, we'll see what he ends up being. It's still early in his career, right? But we saw it with Trey Lance, a great example of this. You can have all those traits, but if you can't decide, you can't make a decision in 2.5 seconds, none of it's going to matter. But the difference is that all the guys that we're talking about that are elite, that have all those physical traits, they can also make the decision in 2.5 seconds. So it's, what is he bringing to the table that they aren't? There's nothing that Brock Purdy can do on the football field that Josh Allen can't, that Herbert can't, that Burrow can't, that Lamar can't. There's nothing, literally nothing. But there's a lot that they bring to the table that he doesn't. Now, again, that doesn't mean he can't be a good quarterback, but when you're talking elite, you're talking special. What are you bringing to the table that's special? And the answer, I'm sorry, is nothing.
Well, this is a topic too that causes a lot of debate, especially on X, and everyone seems to want to challenge you on this as well. So let me just ask you: are you a fan of Brock Purdy?
Yeah, I absolutely am. Yeah, I am. Listen, all the mail is out there for you. You can go search up my tweets from 2021, or I'm arguing with everybody knows if you know 49ers Twitter, you know who Rich Madrid is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rich Madrid is a staple in the 49ers Twitter community. He and I, there's threads of me defending Brock Purdy as a college athlete and talking about, listen, man, right now I'm saying it in 2021, Brock Purdy is going to explode on the draft scene, saying it here before anybody else. He's a second or third round pick to me. That was in 2020. That was before he was on the 49ers. Then there's video of me celebrating when he got picked. There's Twitter spaces that are recorded with me celebrating when he got picked. And like, listen, guys, you guys are sleeping on Brock Purdy. I'm just letting you know. So I can like a guy, but also be realistic about him. And again, like we can remove Brock Purdy from it. There's a lot of conversations about me loving CJ Stroud or Jaden Daniels. Not on the 49ers. Love those guys. But they need to show me more. You don't get to skirt with one good year, an okay year, and then just get paid and think like, this is what you need. So yes, of course, I like Brock Purdy. And on a personal level, we have a lot of things in common as far as our religious views and all that. So I respect Brock Purdy. I like Brock Purdy. I also don't think he's elite. And that's where the conundrum comes in, because I'm supposed to be a fan, which means you have to think everybody's the greatest. It's just not the way it works.